Gaming stocks are tanking after Google's Genie 3 rollout.
Gaming stocks plunging today after Alphabet rolled out its latest tool, Project Genie.
And holy crap, it is a bloodbath. Take-Two is down, Roblox is down, Nintendo is down, and Unity's down freaking 35%. And everyone online is saying the same damn thing. Oh my god, you can make GTA 6 with this. Rockstar is cooked. Game engines are cooked. So this begs the question, are they actually cooked? Now, we've covered Genie 3 extensively on this channel. This is Google's world model, where you can put in a text or image prompt and get an interactive experience that you can play in real time. It's got photorealistic quality and, yes, some crazy emergent behaviors that the developers didn't even expect, like a freaking working GPS and minimap that nobody explicitly programmed. The model just figured this out by predicting the next frame. So of course, the CEOs of these gaming companies are now in damage control mode. They're posting on X, so let's break down what they're actually saying, look at where world models really are today, and figure out what's hype versus reality. Let's get into it. First up, we got Matt Bromberg. He's the CEO of Unity. He's put out this whole thread, and you can tell he's genuinely worried, but he's also making some interesting points. He says, today, world models are primarily editable through prompting, which limits the level of determinism and precision required for production-grade game mechanics. And look, this is the usual gripe about generative AI in general, right? Like, you've got determinism for game mechanics. You can't have your physics behaving differently every time a player loads in. You can't have objects disappearing when you look away. And multiplayer, like, forget about it if the world state is inconsistent. You need everything perfectly synchronized. And these world models definitely can't do this today. But here's the more interesting part of his argument. He talks about defining physics, gameplay logic, networking, monetization, all the stuff that ensures a consistent behavior across devices and sessions. We're talking about a live operating system for not just building games, but deploying them at scale, cross-platform play, and that is not trivial. That's literally what game engines do. And then he reframes it. Rather than viewing this as a risk, we see it as a powerful accelerator. Now, this is the hybrid approach that I've been talking about. Unity's play is, let's take the output from world models, ingest them into their engine, and convert them into structured, deterministic, controllable simulations. Essentially, you use AI as an input, not a replacement. Yes, you use AI to generate a bunch of the visual assets and so forth, but you still need Unity to make it a real game. All right, so that was Unity, one of the biggest game engines on the planet. And if you played a mobile game, it is probably powered by Unity. Now, here's Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic Games, the creator of Unreal Engine, and he's clearly on the same page. So here's what he has to say. The ideal evolutionary path sees a merging of world models and engines. The AI side provides vast amounts of loosely organized audiovisual and textual knowledge, and the engine side provides consistent, reproducible data representation and simulation. Again, this is the hybrid approach. You get physics simulations that actually work. You get object permanence. You get all the stuff that 3D engines do really well and have done so for decades. And then you power it with a creativity of generative world models and tame that chaos in these deterministic engines. So neither of these CEOs are saying that world models will replace us. They're both making the case that they're going to merge together with the engines they own today. Now, this may just seem like a convenient idea for them to embrace, but it definitely has some merit. Now, this is actually very close to what I said back in 2024. The thesis was you need some way for AI to manipulate explicit representations. And they can totally do that now using something like a 3D scene graph. Now, if you're not familiar with the term 3D scene graph, think of it like how a website is defined by the DOM or document object model. This is essentially like the HTML tags, the headers, the body, all the structure underpinning a website. In a similar fashion, whenever you create 3D scenes, environments, and animation, that's represented underneath it as a 3D scene graph. It's this representation that a visual language model, let's say the new Gemini or Claude, can actually reason over and manipulate, just like you do when you're, say, vibe coding or editing a website. Right, to make this concrete, when you say, hey, spawn a world that does X, Y, and Z, you could do exactly that. And Intangible AI is an example of a company building a very similar system. You type in a prompt and boom, it creates that environment for you using this rules-based 3D scene graph. Then you can use generative AI image and video models to do cool things with it. You reskin that 3D scene graph, you iterate on it, and you take it all the way to make that video that you want. Now, the challenge is that these VLMs, essentially visual language models like Gemini, GPT, or Claude, they're not great at spatial reasoning yet. But that's right now. The labs are climbing this hill. Now think about it. You need Claude to get better at using your computer. To do that, you need spatial perception. It's just 2D spatial perception to count pixels to figure out exactly where it needs to click on the screen. They're also getting better at 3D reasoning, which is what you need for robotics and for manipulating virtual worlds. Like, look, this is being built. Roblox is obviously taking advantage of this. Intangible AI is building it. Artcraft is building it. There's so many other players, and you best believe Unity and Epic are too. So that brings us back to the question, is Rockstar actually cooked? Like, can you just make GTA 6 with Genie? And of course, the answer is kind of. Look, there's amazing emergent physics, lighting, spatial consistency in Genie 3 that we absolutely did not have in Genie 2. And the jump from Genie 2 to 3 in just 7 months was honestly insane. I mean, the bitter lesson in AI continues to be bittersweet. But there is still very much a gap. Like going from where we are today, which is sort of like 60 seconds, mildly self-consistent experiences, to long-form, persistent experiences that people actually want to play for hours at an end, that's hard. You need player progression. You need competitive dynamics. You need a freaking economy. And most importantly, you need all of these rules and many more encoded somewhere that you cannot violate. Andrew Ng actually put it beautifully. All of AI right now is a proof of concept to production gap. Yes, we can generate stunning worlds, but we can't yet make them into games that people want to play for hours. And that is the work ahead. And let me tell you, there is a lot of it. So here's how I actually think about what's happening. You've essentially got two different approaches converging towards the same goal. I'd simplify it down as explicit versus implicit. Let me explain. The explicit approach is basically this. Let's take what we know works. Game engines, rendering, rasterization, and supercharge it with AI. So essentially you start with like Unity, Maya, Blender, all the current tools we know and love, and then you layer in AI authoring. So for example, World Labs does this today with world generation. And they're like, I don't know, 5 to 12 different text to 3D tools out there that'll take an image or a text prompt, and you can generate objects, environments, characters, all sorts of stuff. But the artist still has to put them together. Now, the next level up is, why don't we actually use these visual language models like Gemini and Claude to actually compose the scene for us? Think back to the document object analogy that I gave you. Rather than having a human manually placing stuff in a 3D environment, why not have an AI agent that can look at your concept art and then start iterating on what the 3D scene graph should look like to represent that image? You get the final results you want, and then it builds the scene just like a human would. Berkeley's Vega paper actually shows this beautifully. Think of it like a more sophisticated Blender MCP. Then you've got animation. Cascador lets you do in-betweening and keyframes, or just describe a freaking text prompt and have it generate natural motion on an actually rigged character. Look, this is super useful. You can actually control it, edit it, throw it into all the 3D tools we talked about. And then you can even use LLMs to infuse interactivity into all of this. Like make an actual game, have AI write your Unreal Engine nodes so that you don't have to. It writes the C++ for you and gives you the visual interface to play with. At its highest level, the pitch of the explicit approach is this. Instead of artists spending like a year or two reskinning Call of Duty with new assets, going out and scanning stuff, modeling things by hand, texturing it, animating it, infusing interactivity, all this mundane drudgery just to reskin COD, you can automate it. Meanwhile, everything AI does is still addressable. It's editable. You can change things, right? It meets you where you are, and you've got a 3D scene graph you can actually manipulate. The implicit approach, on the other hand, is very different. This is basically saying, screw it, we're going all in on neural networks. Deep learning is black magic. The bitter lesson is a bitter lesson for a reason. Let's just scale this thing. More data, more compute, and out of the other end, we're going to get something that eats Unreal Engine for lunch. And I mean, this perspective is appealing. Look at the progression. Genie 1 looked like shit. It was a bunch of like 2D side-scrollers. Genie 2 was kind of interesting, but it's still pretty rough. But then Genie 3, oh my god, they went from just training this thing on gameplay footage to a good chunk of YouTube. It just worked. Now, if you haven't already, you can go watch my interview with the Genie creators and my Genie 3 review, where I break all of this down, especially talking about the limitations and some hints on what they're planning for Genie 4. But here's the thing, even though this is implicit 3D, it doesn't mean it can't do 3D. Like, this is an argument that I totally disagree with. People saying, video generators and something like Genie 3, which does it in real time, is just 2D because it's giving you pixels. Well, who cares? Because Genie 3 gives you multiple perspectives that you can interactively explore. The 3D structure in this case is just represented by the weights of the model inside these hidden layers of meaning. Like, we've talked about this with things like nerfs, right? Like, the complexity of reality is modeled by the weights of a multi-layer perceptron. Who the frick cares if you don't get a 3D mesh out of it? And of course, since then, we found so many different ways to extract real 3D structure like Gaussian splats and more. So yes, today it is actually hard to edit, constrain, and reason about these hidden layers of meaning. But the counter argument is, so what? We've seen this play out with nerfs and Gaussian splats. Aren't we just going to get something like this with this deep learning first approach? Now, another point that everyone is missing is that this isn't just about replacing 3D engines. It is an entirely new medium. Like, where else can you take a step inside beautiful artwork or a real photo that's instantaneously converted into an interactive 3D scene? You could step inside any Netflix show, any HBO, click on a video, and boom, you're inside that world. And I mean, this is just where the tech is today. And don't forget that Genie 3 can already load videos and images into its memory before you start. So it's not just one image or text prompt. That's just what we get to play with today. If you go look at the research release, you could load in a 10-second video. So it can really start doing things like Gaussian splatting. For example, maybe I record a short clip of moving around an environment. Now, not only can I explore it in an interactive 3D fashion, but I could prompt it with another image to add a dynamic character in it and record that character. I mean, very quickly, this technology starts seeming exceedingly useful in our current workflows. But the real potential is when you think about Genie and these real-time video models as a new medium altogether. Like, we talked about virtual production without the pain, right? You take that image, you turn it into an interactive scene, you're controlling it with your frickin' phone, essentially controlling the camera in 3D space. You get the shot that you want, you upscale it. Now imagine platforms like Notebook, where you've literally got people's AI agents talking on a real-life Reddit for AI. Imagine these kind of agents collaboratively creating Genie worlds for people to jump into. Imagine that Genie world being generated just for you 2 videos before you get to it, like a feed of 60-second interactive experiences that people can remix. It's like video memes or Photoshop tennis, but interactive. That sort of stuff is very hard to do with conventional game engines, but it's actually very simple in this paradigm where you have a bunch of different prompts coming in, images, video, text context, and you get out an interactive experience. You actually don't want the complexity of a game engine in the middle here. And let's say you did want to do it with a game engine. Heck, you'd be cloud streaming Unreal Engine anyway, so you're still burning GPUs. Now, in this whole debate of Genie versus 3D engines, or implicit versus explicit approaches, I can't help but think about self-driving cars. Now, historically, there used to be this federation of AI models and classical systems working together. You had models that were responsible for sensor fusion, taking all the sensor data, turning into a 3D representation. You had an underlying HD map, much like the Google Maps that you use, but far more detailed for machines. You had a bunch of rules-based logic about what you do. And these were things that humans could inspect, they could measure, they could understand exactly what was going on. But suddenly it moved to, actually, we just have a big black box model, pixels come in, and driving policy comes out. That's how your Tesla drives today. That's how Waymo drives today. And that change took a freaking decade for us to get here. Why wouldn't we think the same thing could happen here? Maybe at a much shorter time horizon. Maybe it doesn't take a decade. Maybe it takes 5 years. Maybe it takes 4, maybe 3. I think 2 is still a freaking stretch. But hey, a lot of us were surprised by GPT-4 versus GPT-2. I feel like we're at that GPT-2 era when it comes to these world models. And if that happens, all the things we talked about, player state progression, 3D scene graph, competitive dynamics, monetization, level control, all could be encoded in the weights of a machine learning model. I think once we figure out stuff like lifelong learning and how to real-time update the model weights, it starts seeming less like science fiction and more like reality. And maybe that's all you need. Like, again, the bitter lesson is bitter for a reason. Every time we've seen startups that were building scaffolding around the limitations of a certain model, the next iteration of the model just swallowed those startups up. In this case, the moat is actually much stronger for these game engines, but we're just talking about a slightly longer time horizon. Okay, so let's talk about where I net out. Like, where do I stand on this freaking topic? Look, essentially you got two directions. You've got arrows from both sides, right? They're trying to converge towards this like crazy goal at the top of the pyramid. Like, who knows who gets there first? Maybe it's going to be a holy matrimony of both of these things. I don't think we know yet. What I do know is, just like with LLMs, you'll probably get a really good model, and then we'll build a bunch of other systems and stuff around it to actually make it useful. Like, I'm talking about prompt engineering, retrieval augmented generation or RAG. We're talking about AI tool use. We're talking about agents. All that infrastructure that we built for LLMs, the same thing will undoubtedly happen for world models too. For now, the way I think about it is the following. This is a new tool. Let's say I'm doing some virtual production or lightweight interactive experiences, walking around environments where I don't care about coherence. Like, it's a cozy environment where I want you to feel enveloped by the vibe of the place and don't really care about the exact pixel perfect execution. I mean, Genie is incredible. Like, if I want to get a sense of what something looks like before I do it the right way in Maya or Unreal Engine, Genie is also incredible. But if I need like a perfectly reproducible set that I can shoot multiple takes on, I'm probably going to pull a Gaussian splat out of Genie or just go to World Labs and generate it once. And then I can shoot all the takes I want. Like, Genie is very much a slot machine right now. And if you listen to my interview with the Genie 3 creators, they mentioned this. They said like prompt engineering is a thing. And in future models, they're going to get rid of this so you don't have to hit the slot machine so many times. In other words, Genie is more stochastic right now. The results are definitely unpredictable, but that's just where things are. It says nothing for where things can go. All right, so is Rockstar cooked? Are game engines dead? I don't think so. I mean, not yet anyway, but the landscape is shifting fast. You've got these two approaches racing towards the same final destination. And the builders that understand both of these approaches are the ones who'll shape what comes next. So look, ultimately, companies like Google, OpenAI, and even World Labs, they're not trying to build the next GTA. They're trying to build AI that understands the physical world, because that is a fundamental prerequisite for reaching artificial general intelligence, or AGI. The vision, particularly if you look at what Demis says about Gemini and Google, is one multimodal model that can do everything. But right now, it's manifesting as these specialized models. You got Genie for real-time video generation. You got VO for quality offline video generation. You got Nano Banana for image editing. But they all share the same roots of Gemini. So for these labs, reinventing the game engine is not the mission. It's just a byproduct of teaching AI how reality actually works. Now, I've made a couple of videos breaking down who's doing what in this space, the full landscape of world model approaches, and where the different companies sit on the spectrum. Check those out if you want to go deeper over here. And if you want to go deeper into Genie specifically, I've got a great video for you over here, including an interview with the creators of this amazing model. Bilal signing off, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Cheers.